Welcome, everyone, to the Delaget Navigating Third-Party Delivery for QSRs. We have an expert panel with us today to be discussing delivery and all those good things. I'm your host. My name is Tom Meyer. Before joining Delaget, I worked much of my career in marketing departments for several QSR brands. I've also worked at ad agencies supporting restaurants and a few other ventures in my life. Today, we are welcoming Fred Bendel. He is from Desert de Oro Foods. He is the Vice President of Operations, and his company owns and operates Taco Bell's, KFC, Pizza Hut's, and a few other brands. And John Rankin from Charter Foods, he is Senior Director of Operations. His company also operates Taco Bell's, Long John Silver's, some Pizza Hut Express, and a few other brands as well. We will hear from them in just a few seconds. If you do have any questions for our experts, please put that in the chat, and my knowledgeable coworkers will work at getting those answered. But first, a brief word about Delaget and who we are. If you're not familiar with us, we are a data platform, and what we do is we normalize the data coming out of third-party delivery, back of house, drive-through timers, cameras, POS systems, and then we're able to send that data. We can send it to payroll providers, as you see here, but we also have our own proprietary platforms, and we put that data into operational metrics, sort of like a dashboard. We do loss prevention, and we also recover dollars from those third-party delivery companies on canceled and adjusted orders. We work with over 28,000 restaurants, from large brands like Inspire Brands and up-and-coming brands like Slim Chickens. So let's get into it. We are going to bring our panel in. So John, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And Fred, thank you for joining us as well.
Hi, happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into it. We're going to go in through some of the data that we pull and get your reaction to the data that we see across delivery. So we pulled the data from those 28,000 restaurants that I mentioned, and also our 2023 QSR index. And so much has changed about how the guest interacts and places orders with the restaurant. As you can see here, delivery sales since 2019 are up almost 1,800%. And then just year over year between 2022 and 2023, delivery is up almost 30%. So we know delivery isn't going anywhere. So let's find out from our experts that has to deal with delivery drivers, and online orders on a few questions. So John, I'm going to give you the first question. So how has the integration of third-party delivery services impacted your overall business performance, not only on a sales level, but also with your crew, because you're having to do things differently than you didn't do 5 years ago. So how has delivery affected your overall company?
Well, Tom, I think we're all doing things differently than we did 5 years ago, thanks to our friend COVID. But delivery has definitely played a part in that, and we saw a significant increase during that COVID period, and it really shifted how we think about displaying the orders on the KDS, so the team can properly put those orders together, and when we get really busy, so they don't get lost with all the other orders, and back the KDS up, and had to work through all those challenges. But it really opened up what we see as another channel that's only going to grow even more. So we're excited to see where it takes us. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Have you had to add additional crew members just to handle delivery?
In the restaurants that exceed double-digit third-party delivery revenue, yes. There's a little bit different take on how the different brands handle it, but at Long John Silver's, we really are pushing all of those folks through to a pickup station versus coming through the drive-through and trying to keep that flowing. So it did require some extra staff, especially during heavy packing revenue periods.
Great, thank you. So we'll give you the same question to Fred. Fred, how has delivery really impacted your business, both sales and crew?
Yeah, I mean, John nailed it. Early on, it was a big rush, and we dealt with all sorts of new technology, tablets, and we still deal with tablets in some of our multi-brands, but it really made the business a lot more complicated, I think, for the team and the managers. And so we've spent a lot of effort and time training the team and giving them tools and resources, and it continues to grow. A lot of positives, obviously the sales increase, it helps reach new guests that we weren't reaching before, I think. And we view it as, it'll continue to grow with us as well. But it's just about getting the team the tools and resources, especially those late night periods when it really is impactful, and listening to the data and continue to change and adjust what we do pretty much on the fly all the time, it seems like. But
does it make it a little more frantic during busy hours, dinner rush? Because now you've got drive-through window, you got your front counter, and then you have a delivery crew. So it's a bit more chaotic, if that's the word to use.
Yeah, there's a lot more for the managers, especially to keep tabs on. So I think in the past you could run a shift, even a busy period with one good manager, and now we really are pushing 2 and 3 on the late night pieces and dinner, especially because there's so many different channels and so many different ways to get those digital orders, not just delivery, but adding kiosk and mobile and online ordering that all the brands are doing. So managers have to be a lot more in touch, and they need help versus what just a few years ago.
Well, you mentioned kiosks, so that's a good segue into this next question. Is between the growth of delivery and adding kiosks in the restaurant, how do you accommodate these pieces of technology, especially in older restaurants that were never built to have to handle a delivery station and having kiosks in the lobby? How do you sort of fit all these pieces into a smaller, maybe older restaurant?
You have to get creative, and there's not one size fits all for sure. So for example, we've eliminated a POS on a lot of the counters to put a kiosk on the front counter. You have to get creative with the pickup shelves or stations. Some brands, were early into it, and other brands a little bit behind. But we're still figuring that out as we visit stores. Like, hey, let's adjust this shelf over here. Let's turn it that way as we go along. So we're not right yet, but it's just looking at the flow of the team and the flow of the customers when you're in the store. And we've moved kiosk if they kind of congest the front area. So it's just every store is a little bit different, and we work with our facilities team, IT team, and the ops teams to kind of come in agreement on what that should look like for that location, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great, thank you. John, how about you? How do you deal with some maybe older restaurants and all this technology that you're trying to shoehorn in?
Well, it's definitely not a one size fits all, especially when you're dealing with older facilities that weren't designed to that. But I mean, a key thing for us when this first started was, we had more tablets than you can keep up with, but getting that direct integration feed into the POS has really solved that, and breaking out the delivery to have its own designated place. It doesn't matter what restaurant it is, there's a place where that stuff's got to go, and I think making that look appealing and having it visibly in view of the team and giving them easy access to it's made it key for us. But the kiosk thing really is, you kind of shoehorn kiosk into a place where a register was, or eliminate some part in the lobby that you didn't need. Definitely there's been some decline in lobby business that's been, the kiosks and the mobile ordering, third-party delivery is taking away from that eat in channel a little bit, or at least that's what we're seeing.
Great, thanks. Well, I think we'll move on to the next piece of data. So delivery loss from canceled and adjusted orders continues to grow and is now somewhere between 1% and 2%. So we analyzed the most common reasons for cancellations with DoorDash, this is where this data comes from, across all sorts of dining categories, and we saw a common theme. So almost every restaurant category had wrong order handed to driver as the main reason for cancellation. So in chicken category, number one, Mexican category, number one, pizza category, number two. So Fred, we'll go to you on this one. What steps do you take to ensure the right order is being given to the right driver?
We've done a lot. Right now, we're really focused on the manager or a manager touching every single digital order to make sure that they're accurate before they're going out. So we start, back of house. We've invested in printers for the line to print the receipt and put it on the bag that has the guest name and the order, instead of having the team run up front and trying to take some steps away from that. Really working with the drivers to make sure they've grabbed their drinks. It's a very common one. So we're place the drinks up front with their name on it. If at all possible, talk with that driver and make sure that, hey, did you get everything you need? And then kind of walk over it with them. And again, the manager's key on that. And just making sure the team's aware of what, the most common missed items are. So we post the complaints up in the store so the team knows, hey, we're missing the drinks, or the sides are very common. So it's an awareness, and then adjusting to, again, having the manager own that piece. It's, in some locations, it's almost half the business now. So having one manager responsible for that has been key for us.
Wow, that's amazing. So John, what steps are you taking in your different brands to make sure that the driver's leaving with the right order?
Well, Tom, one of the things I spoke to earlier was the first thing we did is approach it, especially from the Long John Silver side, of adding technology, like breaking the KDS to have just mobile and third-party orders. So if there's something pops up there, the team knows without a doubt what it is and where it's going. So that was the first piece. And then really nailing down, as you said, accuracy was the number one thing we were missing with. So once we got some technology in place and put the focus on accuracy, the next thing was building a relationship with drivers. So the stores that do the most see the same DoorDash driver over and over. So they've got a relationship established with that person, and that solves a lot of those mistakes, because if that driver doesn't get the order right, they're not gonna get the return. They're not gonna keep the business going for them. So having that rapport where you can quickly reach out to a driver if you need to, or that kind of thing, is really, that's just something the managers discovered. Really, we had all these great ideas from the brand and everything we thought, but once you put it in the hands of the managers and the team members, they're usually the ones who came up with the best ideas anyway.
It always comes from the field, right? Because they're down there executing. So that's a great comment. So the delivery driver is kind of the middleman. Sometimes you see them as your customer. What are you doing to interact with them? Do you text? Do your managers have the cell phone numbers of drivers, or how are you interacting with the drivers? That's maybe above and beyond, just acknowledging them as they come in.
It's across the board on that. I mean, the stores where we're 30-40% in delivery sales, and you're seeing that the manager definitely has a relationship with the driver. So there is some communication via text, and then we have managers who simply acknowledge this driver's here picking up multiple orders. We're going to have somebody help them take the orders out to the car. Sometimes they give them a drink just to make sure they're taking that extra time to check what they're taking out as well. So, and I mean, we've done that, and building that rapport has been key, and especially where it's it's high volume, and then falling back on the technology and just the simple process of now that we've got the customer's name and where it's coming from straight on the KDS, making sure they're highlighting that on the receipt and it's matching up like, oh, you're here to get Stephanie's order? It's right there. And so a lot of that.
Great. Thank you for that. So Fred, how about you? How are you? We talked earlier about, making sure that the drivers have a drink or something along those lines. What else do you do to really engage those good DoorDash drivers to make sure that they're well taken care of?
Really, the number one thing we stress is their time is money, right? And so when they come in, if there's a wait, we acknowledge, hey, it's going to give them a realistic view of what that's going to take. And so just acknowledging that, hey, it's going to be a few more minutes, and them knowing that we have their best interest at heart goes a long way. So making sure the team realizes that. And again, like we talked before, is if it's going to be a wait, offer them a drink, offer them a meal if it's going to take a long time. And it's just that, like you said, the rapport with that driver, and just realizing that is our customer. That's the one we interact with. And so I think if we treat them right, hopefully they'll do the same, treat the customer, our end customer, right. But for us, it's just that acknowledgement of that they need to be in a hurry, and we need to, not let them wait. And if there is a wait, just explain it to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I think the last question for the slide before we move on is, obviously there's a lot of data that comes into restaurants now. Is there one in particular around delivery that you really focus on? Like this, what's the main reason for cancellation, or what's the main metric that you look at for your restaurants for delivery? So, John, I'll give it to you.
The main metric right now across all the brands, and it's on these slides, it's one of your top ones, is making sure the order's right, and we're looking at accuracy that we're getting back from the customer, as well as the third-party delivery aggregators, to see what we're doing there, and then put some kind of incentive to the team that they can improve those accuracy scores. So that's key. And then, as Fred said, making sure the speed for those orders, and it sounds so crazy, but breaking that KDS up to where they only see mobile and third party was really game changer for us, because for us, Lent is the busiest time of year, and Ash Wednesday, you couldn't discern what order was for the counter because there were so many delivery orders. So once we figured out how to use technology to break that up, that was a huge game changer for us. Sounds silly, but it really changed things a lot.
Great, thanks for that. Fred, how about you? Is there any other metric that you like to look at when you're analyzing, each restaurant?
The accuracy is the first thing. That's the customers are telling us the most. We spend the most focus on that. We've really pushed the avoidable driver wait time. It's another way to say the speed, but how long the drivers are waiting. And we really look by day parts. So we focus on the stores that are high, and it's almost invariably late night or dinner, and then work with those teams to try to get them, closer to the 3-minute mark. If we see 5-6 minutes, that's breakdown, and we need to figure that out. So we've put a lot of focus on that, not just the overall number, but looking at the day parts. And then we communicate that out each week to the teams. The area managers do that, and then they'll send a recap in on, what they're working on with their team that week. If everything's great, then we know that, and they can work on other things. But those two pieces really.
Great, appreciate it. And great transition into this slide, which is talking about day parts. So we analyzed those 28,000 restaurants and looked at delivery transactions and guests by hour. And surprise, surprise, late night delivery generate even more transactions than the breakfast day part, lunch day part, even some of the dinner day part hours. So it's pretty amazing. So questions that you mentioned, some of your restaurants are up, over 60-70% at late night. So, John, I'll give you this one. What percentage of digital orders are you seeing on your higher late night restaurants?
Well, For our Long John Silver's business, late night for us ends pretty early, so it's really more of the later dinner day part there. But it's definitely 10 to 15% higher than any other day part, especially in the more metro locations. Now, on the Taco Bell side, it starts to go up in some of the higher volume restaurants by 20 or 30% in that late night day part. So it's that's been key to figure out how we keep that working, keeping that drive-through moving, or having them come inside and keep the lobby open just a little bit longer, just so they're not blocking the drive-through traffic as well. So, all
right, thanks. Fred, I think you said you have some restaurants around Arizona State that were doing some pretty crazy numbers. Can you kind of share what you're seeing at some of your higher late night restaurants?
Yeah, that store in particular is a good success story for us. We've kept the dining room open there 24 hours for a few years now. And those hours, we see 80% digital hours pretty often after midnight there, especially on the weekends, and huge hours. So we've taken that in a smaller scale in some of our restaurants and keep the dining rooms open as late as we can if it's safe. We have a lot that are open till midnight now, and we have some that are 1 and 2. So that's been the big thing. Again, like he said, just clogging up the drive-through. If the drive-throughs, if your dining room's closed, then they have to be in line, and then that can really complicate things. So where it's safe, we keep the dining room open later. Even if in some locations we've roped off the dining room and make it, only to go or digital orders only available, if to help the team out and not having to keep a dining room staffed. So that's been the biggest one, I think, is those late night, and then just having the staff. And I referred earlier, 2 to 3 managers, so that those busy stores, we might have 3 managers working till midnight at least. So just to help with that business.
Wow, 3 managers. So late night tends to be harder to staff, right? So how long teenagers can work or how late they can stay out. There's city curfews. So how do you ensure that you have really good employees working those shifts, right? Do you have to pay higher wages to get people to work late night? Do you give them more hours? How do you handle trying to get people to work those late shifts? So why don't you just keep going on that?
Yeah, whatever they want, honestly, but higher pay is almost mandatory at this point. They're working till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, so that's a no-brainer now at this point, and it's quite a bit higher. I mean, some of our late night closers might make as much as a morning manager might make in that store. Give them the hours they want for sure, and then it's really the chicken or the egg thing. But I think if you have a manager by themselves handling that hour, which we have in some locations, obviously, that we haven't got to 3, then you're just constantly turning over because it's super stressful. So it's just biting the bullet and getting 2 to 3 managers in there on those, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights in the stores that dictate it. So where it is fun to be at, instead of, because it can be awful there, with big hours and you're dealing with drivers and customers and call-ins. And so you have to keep it a fun place to work, and the more people that you can throw on there, I mean, it's almost impossible to blow labor in some stores late night. So if you put it, they'll come. So that's the stance we've taken. And like I said, that first store was a good example of what's possible if you could keep the dining room open, keep it staffed, and so that we've tried to replicate that in other locations.
That's great. Thank you for that. All right, John, how about you? How are you dealing with trying to get employees to work some of those later hours?
I chuckled a little bit when you were saying that, because it really is give them what they want. I mean, it really changed the mindset of what you do to keep and retain folks. Was suddenly you were catering to whatever it is they needed, and the more you do that and give them the shifts they want and hire around that, and get managers to change that mindset. That was half the battle. The other half was making it someplace that's not miserable to be. And so we've had to invest in adding that extra manager to reduce the stress and try to make that late night environment a little bit more fun. If you're going to have to be there and it's going to be busy, anything we can do to simplify it, take the stress off, that's been part of it. So it's really just a cultural shift on, I think started with COVID, and now you just can't hire and dictate. You've got to hire and do all those great things that everyone knows to do, but have some flexibility that you may not have had 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, thanks for that. When I was at Del Taco, we were testing full throttle, and Del Taco is open 24 hours in Los Angeles. And we noticed that the employees were drinking a lot of those full throttle. So they were having fun late at night, drinking some energy drinks. All right, so we just have a couple minutes left. So we're going to go through some other data and get your input on these. So when we were going through, looking at, large days for not only delivery, but also cancels and adjusted orders, we found some, very unexpected high volume dates. So, we know Mother's Day and Father's Day and things like that are always big, but sometimes the brand does something along with those food holidays. So we just celebrated National Donut Day the other day. National Fried Chicken Day is coming up on July 6th. But what we found for April, we were kind of surprised. So Tax Day was one of the largest day for April. NFL Draft kind of seems, people are getting together. But there was one date that we were scratching our heads with, and it turns out it was the solar eclipse. So how do you prepare your stores for these high volume delivery dates? Do you notify your managers? Let's say there's National Fried Chicken Day coming up. Do you have a calendar that you go through saying, hey, the brand's going to be doing this? Mother's Day is coming up. We need to staff for this. How do you handle those really high delivery dates? So, John, why don't we go to you on that?
Well, with all the ones that we know about from the brand, and when you're managing various different brands, we keep a running important dates thing and make sure they get a reminder on the ones that have seemed to generate the most interest the day before, and then put a lot of focus back onto the area coach of, hey, before you approve that schedule, these sales events are coming up just for this day, and most of them are coming through delivery and mobile, so you need to keep that in mind before you approve it. So there was that. And then the Eclipse one, it's funny you brought that up because we had a store that was on the southern end of Totality, and we tried to actually have some fun with that to try and drive some people in. So I think it caught us all off guard on how much that changed the business pattern.
Yeah, us too. We didn't know why that day bloomed like it did, and then did some Googling. Fred, how about you? How do you deal with with Taco Bell? They do the steal a base, get a free taco for the World Series. How do you prepare your managers for these? You got to order extra food and taco shells. How do you deal with those?
The last couple of years, we've added a dedicated person that just looks at data and sends it to the teams, and then works with the area managers, especially on the scheduling piece. And we try to get that out early enough when we can, holidays and things. And even the still-based taco, they've made that easier by knowing what date it's going to be, a few weeks in advance, because we're asking our managers to make several weeks of schedules. And so we have to send that data out early enough to where they can actually implement that into their forecast, and the coaches can check it before it comes up. So having that person that's, looking at the data, and then he'll send out prior years, here's what you did last at St. Patrick's Day, here's what you did Father's Day last year, and get the team, aware, because some holidays you lose sales, right? You drop, other ones are busier, and just letting the team know what their location did last year has been a big help for them, I think.
Great. We got one question left before we're about out of time. So we know bad weather can greatly affect sales. So if you have restaurants that are in snowy areas or whatever, how do you plan for bad weather? Do you have to entice the crew to come in? Do you have to go pick them up? How do you deal with bad weather restaurants? So Fred, to you first.
Yeah, obviously it's hard to plan for that. Snow is the big one. the area coach has a 4-wheel drive, that definitely helps. So they do pick up their team sometimes, but we don't. We're very careful in those instances. A lot of times, weather will increase delivery, for example, but we'll lose sales inside. So it's sometimes a wash, sometimes less. If the team can't get in, sometimes we have to adjust hours if the team can't get in. If the team can't get in, the guests can't get in a lot of times too. So it's just being understanding, and the customers are usually pretty understanding with that. We do know that on weather events, it will impact digital and mobile. You might be really slow inside and still could do some good sales. So we, again, getting creative if you need to pick them up and be understanding on changing their hours. In some cases, we have a hotel that we'll put them up at if they travel to an outer market store, and we have a direct bill there to, if they get stuck. So we're just trying to be understanding in those instances. So.
Great. Thanks for those examples. John, how about you? Do you have restaurants where it snows and gets some bad weather and you really see a spike in sales?
I don't know about a spike, but a challenge in sales for sure, Tom. But besides, those were, great things that Fred said. We do a lot of that as well. I think everyone tries to have it, like lining up someone to plow, any of the stores where it's out, looking to get like some hotel rooms and have a snow team in place. I mean, that's really the thing for us is prepping to get a team there, and then you adjust to make sure it's safe. So outside of that, and having someone who's got that vehicle that can pick them up, that's really how we tackle that.
Great. You gotta obviously do whatever you can to keep the doors open, but that's amazing. Hotels and having somebody with a plow go pick up people. That's awesome. All right, so we are just about out of time. So I want to thank Fred. Thank you so much for joining. John, thank you so much for joining our webinar. If those that are out there watching this, you want some more information about Delaget and our solutions, please scan the QR code, and that will take you to a page. You could fill out your name, and we'll get back to you. So again, thank you, Fred. Thank you, John. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Miranda, you're going to